Hello, sir.
Hi, how are we doing?
Good. How are you? It's good to talk to you again.
Good.
Congratulations on this film. It is tremendous. It is amazing. It's such a beautiful film with so much realism and depth. I'm curious for you, like every room feels lived in this house. How do you accomplish that and keep it from being chaotic? Because it feels like everything comes together.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's exactly the response I was dreaming of. And I did not think or know if that was ever, gonna be the case. So for sure, I mean, I kind of go into every film with the principle of like every scene and key moment needs to feel like it was found or like stumbled upon rather than staged, And I wanted to feel like it's almost a documentary. But at the same time, I think you can go deep into that verite vortex and things can just become hodgepodge. And I still want like a clear emotional through line for a viewer, when they're watching a film. So while I'm shooting, authenticity is the key, like protecting the actors, you know, body and mental state, while guiding them through these feelings is the key, and getting enough to edit is the key. It's only then when so that's why editing is extremely important to me at the end and why I do it myself, because there's versions of this story and of an age especially, and You Won't Be Alone especially, actually, that would be just like arbitrary. It would be just like, all right, so what? I mean, everything looks authentic, but like what am I watching and why? Like, so you kind of what I found is the trick in all three, actually, and almost stumbled across by accident, thankfully, because I like doing things in close-ups a lot of the time, is the eyes of the actors or the anchor, that can kind of tease out meaning even in the most chaotic situation. And the kind of controlled chaos on set brings life to them. You kind of paint a more detailed universe for them that they can live within, so that when they're looking at an object, it's or at a person, they're interested in it. It's not like they're not putting on their selfie face for the camera. They're actually engaging with an environment, and then like they're letting feelings flow in as well. So they're helping me in turn. But I'm kind of very much in their hands, like a lot of the time with my actors. Like, because if I tell them what to do, it ends up being very mechanical. Because maybe because I'm just not very good, but like I just don't believe in that kind of directing. So I'm kind of like hoping things work out. I kind of watch everyone and then like fingers crossed that it all makes sense or flows in the end.
I think what you're doing is working because from your three films, the most recent three, I mean, just incredible, incredible performances of people and stories. And that speaks so much here. This cast, they are so incredible together. The ensemble performance is breathtaking. Was there any prep work into bringing out that kind of performance together in some of these scenes where there are quite a few people, or did it just come out in the work?
Really. There was things like a lot of the prep work was, and it was a lot of it was done without me because the two lead actresses, both Romanian background, so they don't speak Macedonian, they don't speak the language on screen, so they had to learn all the dialogue phonetically. A lot of the majority of dialogue had to be locked in place well in advance, and the prep work, to be honest, that I did with them was more about going through every scene, explaining, which I do in every film, explaining why literally every syllable of every word is there in the script, not just the dialogue, but the bits in between as well. Not because I wanted them to say that or do it, but so that they understood where I'm coming from and why it's there. And it's just to always assume we're starting at the same page, when we're changing things. And then kind of like as we were talking through it, you kind of getting a flow. So it's when there's a snag or something not working, or sometimes it's for me, sometimes for the actor, we can kind of change it in that early conversation and sort of I only discuss psychology and these other things in detail weeks before we shoot. Once we're on set, everything is very simple and kind of physical and about making sure the actor is present in their body and like it shouldn't be an intellectual process on set for me. It needs to be very organic. So the intellectual stuff needs to be gotten out of the way weeks in advance. So yeah, I spoke with the people who play Suada and Dita especially. and then also Vladimir replaced Tony. Like I spoke with them well in advance, and then they each spent time with their dialogue coaches. And then once there wasn't much of a collective thing because I don't find read-throughs, especially with non-trained actors, it becomes like they kind of spend themselves in this process and kind of don't really get to deliver as much rawness or emotional directness on set. And so much of the cast was untrained. So yeah, it was kind of organic on like as we were filming. Like I think I spent time individually with everyone in the cast as much as I could. And I always felt like I was there as a point of connection to them on set. And then they were also building connections to each other as people. Like I know Anna Maria and Suada like knew each other from a long time back, so their connection was very strong. And then both of them and Vladimir, who plays Tony, also spent a lot of time together in prep, just individually as people, you know. And yeah, it kind of came together.
That's amazing. I mean, the other person I want to talk about though is I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Zada, the little girl.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God. How do you find a child that can pull off a performance like this? Because there are some very challenging scenes and she's just amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't do traditional auditions for actually any of the roles. It was always just people speaking to camera about themselves for like 20 seconds. And that included, the girls who, auditioned for lack of a better term. And with Jada, like, it was just like a 20-second video, one of like, literally 1,000 I had seen and like 2,000 that the casting agent had seen. And she just stood out in terms of like this fire in the eyes and in that voice, like who is that girl? And yeah, she wasn't cast because of her tendency to follow instructions or directions because she does neither of those things. So it's like she was cast for the fire in the eyes because you're like, you need that. She had a body double on set. So it's her in close up. The rest of the time, it is body double. Oh, and yeah, it was very creative on set. Um, Logistics handling, let's just say, because it's kind of, the sad fact about Macedonia is that there are no child labor laws. But the happy fact about Jada is she comes with her natural one in filled because she will give you 5 minutes on set and then she will leave. And that's if she comes to set, if she feels like it. So, which is great. Because it means the rest of the crew and cast to be very ready for whatever's about to happen because we're rolling and like it is on. And then yeah, every day was trying to figure out because yeah, it was trying to figure out what will make her want to take part in this scene at this time and connect to the story and connect to everyone around her. And every single day was different. And every single day, the different person was her best friend and the other person was her enemy. And it was pretty arbitrary because she was very much in charge. I actually think she's my co-director more than my star in this film. And probably her name should go above mine, even though I'm an egotist. I will concede that.
That's an amazing story. You know,
Hmm.
there's so many things I could ask you, but I'm going to finish with something kind of. I'm unsure if you can answer this, but like you've come through these three films, your last three features are just they're spellbinding. I mean, the depth and the storytelling that you're pulling off here. I'm curious if you felt like you've learned lessons from the first two features or the last two features in particular leading into this that helped you make this film. Is that hard to
Um,
say, or can you sum that
I
up?
mean, very much. Like it's actually it helped that like I was editing of an age pretty like very soon after editing of an age I was already on set with housekeeping for beginners and I'm like so even more than usual I was so aware of how things change from what the energy is on set to once it becomes raw footage. And there's things that like you can capture them on camera, but the feeling doesn't translate unless you do something else, So being very aware of that, things that like might seem technical on page, about like, making sure to get a second angle of the same shot, not because it gives you an option, but because every time you cut to a new shot, it's like a new story begins for the viewer. But like unless they've seen a character in the previous shot, like the emotion of the next shot doesn't land as much. And like little simple boring things that I can talk about that are technical, like I was more prepared with that going into housekeeping than I was on the previous two. Luckily, I could fluke my way with the previous two, and especially with You Won't Be Alone, I had so much latitude on set in terms of how we were filming it and what we were getting, so we could get so much footage. And I wouldn't say different takes because often it was a single take, but like I managed to get so much material that like then um, I could build things in the edit and like tease out even further story strands and character strands, and like kind of be learning things on in real time, and also just learning things about like sound mixing, like how much I benefited from having a producer who is not just on set with me to help me out, but every day in the sound mix. Most producers just slap their name on top, give you the money, and you don't see them, on set quite often. It's a nightmare. Whereas I have someone who's there to support me at all times, and like and she's someone who spent a lot of time on set, both as a crew member, as a producer, and then just like I learned from that, and like how much I think we neglect how much sound mix is important because it genuinely elevates a performance. Like a performance can look like bad acting if you can't hear the actors breathing on screen. Like this is something that you only learn once you watch it. Like it's uncanny. It can, editing like great footage in the editing, the performance can be misjudged if you're not keeping track of what the viewer is connecting with, at all times. And a lot of the time sound helps you with that to bridge that gap. Like, not just to cover things, but also just like that's how a viewer connects to someone on screen. Like, people talk to me about my close-ups a lot because they think that's where a lot of the magnetism comes from. But let me assure you, like, it's not a coincidence that Emma Bortignon is my sound designer of all three films and will be forever as long as she'll have me, because it's someone who pays attention to all elements, and it's not a technical job. It genuinely is there to bring more connection and emotional impact, to the viewer, connecting with the actors on screen.
Well, congratulations again. Really just amazing to see all of this storytelling come together. So thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I hope I hope there's another film we can talk about.
I cannot wait to talk to you again because your work just gets better and better. And, I loved everything you've done so far, but this is really spectacular.
Oh, it's really great to hear that. So yeah, thank you so much.